Okay, so now we've got the beams in place. Back here in my first floor view, adjusted so I can see these higher structural components. I'm going to click on the Annotate tab, and I'm going to use this little feature here called the Detail line, DL keyboard shortcut, and I'm just going to click on the existing A structural grid line, and then I'm going to select that, and I'm going to use the Move tool. And again, I've got a numeric value in mind, so I don't have to actually click on any objects. I've found if you can avoid clicking on objects, you're better off, because then you don't have the potential to click on something that you didn't want to click on. So just make a first click, drag in the direction you want to move it, and then with your keyboard type in 1500. Okay, and then with that line, I'm just going to drag the grip so it extends past structural grid line 1 and 2. Okay, and that's where the joist is going to go. Okay, so without that 2D line, I wouldn't know where to place the joist. Now, I'm not going to bother arraying this because I know that once I've got the first one in place, all I have to do is just do a copy 1500 millimeters to that side, 2 additional ones, and then I'll have 4 spaced evenly in this structural bay. So with that in place, now, actually I'm going to go to my second floor view. And I'm going to make sure my underlay shows my first floor. Yes. I should have actually done that, what I just did there in second floor view, because again I'm going to run into the situation where I'm going to place the joist, and knowing where a joist usually goes, it's going to put it underneath the view that I'm in. So I'm going to just run through that again. So with the Annotate tab, Detail line, I'm going to actually put that line in my second floor view. That would be more useful. There we go. Okay, when that's set up, now what I'm going to do is go to the Structure tab again. And I'm also going to use Beam. So some of these other ones might sound like they're a little more appropriate, because what we're going to do is an open web steel joist. It tends to resemble a truss or something else, but it is still a beam that we're looking for. So I'm going to click on that. The beam that appears in the Properties window is the last beam that we use, and we don't really have many other options. So we have to track down something from the library in this case. And what we're going to use, from the Load Family button here, click on that, and we're going to use a joist from the Structural Framing folder. Okay, so I just clicked on Beam, Load Family, and then in the library here in the Canada folder, I'm just going to click on Structural Framing, and I'll click on the Steel folder. And then what I want is the nice short convenient title of M_K series bar joist rod web. Easy to remember, right? So you shouldn't have to use your scroll bar. It should just be about a dozen or so down there. This is going to load up the family, and then we'll also see that additional step where we have to be a little bit more specific about the type that we want to use. So when you click on Open, you'll see this long list. And all we're going to do initially is just concern ourselves with the depth. We just want to get a depth that's close to 600. Okay, and then we'll basically we'll use that type, and we'll make a duplicate, and we'll get it to exactly what dimension we want. So in this long list here, we just want to look for a depth that's close to 600. We'll go with 24K4. And click OK. So it loads up that family. And now I'm just going to, using that detail line that I created, I'm just going to drag it from one structural grid line to the next. Okay, and it'll show that joist. Okay, now I can be reasonably sure that I've got it in the right spot. I can see it's kind of aligned. Notice how I've got these two top flange elements here, and I can see that my 1500 millimeter line that I placed earlier is aligned to the center. And now I'm just going to go to my 3D view just to confirm that. Okay, now I've got a few little tweaks I got to make because you can see it's just kind of levitating there. So I'm just going to click on the joist, and then just like we saw with the beams, I've got a start level offset and an end level offset. I'm just going to enter a negative 100 in each of those boxes, and I should see it drop down close to the top flange of my beam. Now I won't get there right flush on the bottom, and we'll sort of look at why that is next. But just confirm that you've got it aligned at least that much. And the next thing that I'm going to do here is I have to edit the type. Remember, we got reasonably close when we selected our type a couple of windows ago, but we didn't quite get all the information that we wanted. So I'm going to click on Edit Type. And just like we've seen several times before, I'm going to make a duplicate. I'll call this my 360 joist. And then what do I want to adjust here? Will be the depth. And luckily I get these blue alignment lines here to kind of prompt me about what each of these dimensions refers to. I'm going to change the depth to 600. And I'm going to change the seat depth to 100 as well. What that refers to is at the top here I've got kind of two pairs of these angles. The top set of angles represents that top chord or the top flange of the joist as it runs across the entire length of the joist. The set underneath here is just in the location where it sits on the beam. So it's a little short section, and together the depth of that makes up the joist seat. So I want that seat depth to be 100. Before it was only 63.5, and that's why the joist didn't really sit right on the beam. I've lengthened it out now 36.5 millimeters, and that would cover off the gap. So when I click OK, and it'll catch up there, now you see that it lines up to the top flange of that beam. Okay, and the next step then is just to array these throughout the first floor and then copy them up to the second.